first panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, which has some of the top leaders of EMEA. The topic of the first panel discussion is next normal challenges and requirements for digital financial stability in the region. And we have all the panelists lined up here, all the dignitaries lined up for our very first panel discussion. I would quickly go ahead and introduce our moderator, Mr. Tom O'Reilly, who is the Group CTO, YBA Kanoo Group. Over to you, Tom. Kindly go ahead and introduce yourself and request you to introduce the co-panelists as well for the session.
Thank you, Shalini. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be part of this, especially because I'm quite new in Bahrain. So it's great to be connected with so many of the other leaders here in this country. I am a group CTO here at Kanoo, looking at how can you drive digital transformation into a 130-year-old family business. And so it's a great, exciting challenge that I'm happy to be part of. And I'm celebrating 10 years of being in the Gulf. Prior to this, I've been in Dubai, where I was the hybrid cloud CTO for Dell Technologies in EMEA, and before that in Qatar, working in oil and gas. So I'm very pleased to be able to to moderate this panel talking about digital financial stability in the region with a number of really clear financial experts from very leading companies. So I'll introduce them and then we'll get into some questions, and we'll be sure to leave a few minutes at the end if there's any questions from the audience. So first, let me introduce Linoy Kidd. Linoy is the CIO for Markets and Security Services in Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey at HSBC Bank Middle East. Linoy, would you just introduce yourself to the group, please?
Hi, my name is Linoy Kidd. I run MSS, which is Markets and Security Services. I'm actually based in Dubai, but I run the whole of the Middle East for MSS.
Great, thank you. And next we have Mr. Jawad Alalawi, who is the Director of Information Technology at Yousuf Exchanges and Money Transfers. Jawad, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm 2 consecutive years CIO awarded with PCI DSS Achievements Awards, with heavily involvement in security and technology deployments day-to-day basis.
Excellent, thank you. Following that, Mr. Imran Sarwar, who is the CIO at Dubai Customs and also a co-founder of AR Leap. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Imran?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Ramadan Kareem. I'm happy to see everyone here and be part of this great event. I work in Dubai Customs and I'm taking care of the innovation lab in Dubai Customs, and I'm also acting as a senior enterprise architect in Dubai Customs. I'm responsible for all the technology, infrastructure, application solution decisions and designing of the IT systems. And at the same time, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a startup in which I'm heavily involved. It's basically in the education sector. I'm using augmented reality, which is very much relevant in this COVID era. Very interactive, very interesting tech setup.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, Mr. Mohamed Alojaimi, who is the Cloud Technology Senior Director for Middle East and Africa and Central and Eastern Europe in Oracle. Good morning, Mohamed.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be with you here today. I worked for Oracle for so many years here in the region, and we work very closely with our large customers in the region to help them transform, especially nowadays and during the pandemic. And I lead the business development team for the cloud technology in our region. And I'm very pleased to be with you here today. Thank you.
Great, thank you everyone, and very much a big welcome. Let's just dive right into the questions. Jawad, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
Yes, okay.
You know, over the past few years, we've seen quite a dramatic increase in a new type of bank. You know, digital banks. Actually, there's Ela Bank is actually next door to me right now. These are banks that don't have branches, that don't have ATMs, that don't offer face-to-face service. And so it's changing a lot, but the future we see is most likely moving to this digital banking, but will traditional banks be able to survive with this digital boom?
Well, the answer, it depends. The current regulations are limiting digital banks on their business as well as with own regulations that are not geared toward pure digital banking terms. So those new digital banks are operating on different terms and regulations that were designed for traditional banking. However, those limitations will not last for long. For example, in Bahrain, the CBB is pushing toward providing a new set of regulations that advances the digital transactions efforts and the regulations for digital banking. So those traditional banks' operational costs is the biggest challenge for them. Those challenges are not easy to overcome, which is the cost challenges in a short to medium term. However, can those banks survive the transformation of face-to-face from face-to-face to digitalized banks? Again, it depends on their speed of change and the way they approach this change. In case they consider those new fully digital banks as a direct threat to their business, they will move toward changing. However, if they consider those digital banks as something new and will not impact their business, they will never do anything and they will remain as they are doing currently. For sure, people will still need the face-to-face services. However, the need for face-to-face services will shrink by time. And quickly people will adopt new methodologies, which currently has been that by COVID-19, the impact of need for non-face-to-face services has grown highly. The transformation from the traditional banking to the new digital banking needs a new set of mentality that regenerate the processes, the policies, and procedures for pure digital service provision and from a pure digital service provision view, then mapping it to the current processes and procedures. In other words, the transformation needs to start from the new methods of digitalization and not to adopt those old processes and policies to counter for a new digital era. Tom, sorry.
Thank you, Jawad. That's very insightful. If you don't mind, I'll just jump to Linoy, who works for a traditional bank. And you know, building on what Jawad is saying, what do you think, how do you think the COVID-19 and the whole pandemic, you know, as tough as it's been for so many people, how do you think that has accelerated or changed the digital footprint of traditional banks?
I think COVID-19 had a huge impact on the digitalization of the banking industry because we needed to rack and stack very quickly, ensure that you know, all the trading floor could effectively do what they do from home, which has never ever been done before, by the way. So, I mean, the simple fact of the matter is this platform that we're using now, which is Zoom, would have had to have gone through rigorous compliance, regulatory approval, years and years and years to put inside the bank. And when COVID-19 happened, we managed to, you know, send Zoom out across the world globally within the week that COVID-19 hit us. So it just shows that in the times of adversity, actually, the acceleration of being able to do amazing things is there, and it's at the tip of our fingertips. And I think it's actually helped the digital agenda within the bank, specifically, you know, on the MSS side, on the trading side, because that's the side that I'm an expert in. It meant that our digital footprint increased. And I think in terms of traditional banking, etc., I think there's always going to be the need for traditional banking, especially if you look at the demographic. The older demographic always wants the personal touch. I don't think that's going to change. So, but I do think that that we're going to work in parallel, and we're going to see this amazing throughput of digitalization across the banking industry, as we are continuously looking for new innovation. So I think it's a very, very interesting time, not just for banking, but for the technical industry as a whole. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, no question. It's incredibly interesting. Imran, Jawad mentioned that, you know, the regulations that are in place today are you know, were made in the mindset of the traditional bank, and it doesn't necessarily fit the digital model. What do you think, you know, thinking about COVID and digitization, what does governments and businesses need to rethink the economy and provide growth opportunities, keeping this digitization in mind? And what do you think strategies that governments can adopt that will help to shape this new normal of the future?
Thank you, Tom. Well, first and foremost, building a better world beyond COVID-19 requires leaders to imagine the unthinkable. They need to think of strategies that they have never thought before. I never thought that something like a pandemic would happen in our lifetime, and that it would actually be technology that saved us and allowed us to continue working and communicating. There is so much more opportunity for innovation now than ever before. That combination of innovation and education will be crucial for success as we look ahead. COVID-19 has accelerated two trends driving change in business models: digital transformation and corporate shift to a long-term value, with virtual and digital replacing physical wherever possible. Adoption of automation, capability building in cloud, artificial intelligence, RPA, blockchain, augmented and virtual reality is becoming a must now. The government and business leaders, they have to have the mindset of transitioning from being reactive towards taking control and define the new normal. We need to have more public and private partnerships and open collaboration with SMEs and in particular technology providers, with focus towards providing economic growth, security, and well-being of citizens. We also need to rethink education, student engagement, and to introduce new delivery models. Policy changes, new regulations to allow flexibility and innovation. We know that how decision-making happens in government, but this needs to change. And as Mr. Ahmed pointed out, that the major digital transformation driver was COVID, not the CEO or the CTO. Yes, and it is very much right. So we need to have the required policy changes and new regulations to allow flexibility and innovation. We need to have more innovation hubs and sandboxes, especially in the field of finance and education. We need more fintech solutions. A lot of innovation in this space is required. And one more very important thing: widespread confidence in digital payment systems for mass adoption is very important and critical. So in my opinion, success will depend on flexibility, agility in making decisions, continuous business model innovation, and public and private collaboration. And I think this is kind of it has triggered already, and the leaders are thinking in this direction, not only in government, but in large corporate sectors. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I think you mentioned a number of interesting things, and for sure, I agree with you. In this region, if we can get a that level of confidence in digital payments, it could really push things forward. Mohamed, I want to come to you because Imran mentioned a number of kind of digital drivers that are helping to reshape the industry. What, in your experience, what are the key forces that are really helping to drive that transformation in the industry today?
Thank you very much. Well, there are so many, I think, forces that are reshaping the financial industry today, and the pandemic for sure has accelerated that. Let me go through them very quickly. The first one is what we call the experience economy. So customers are expecting a much better way to interact with their banks and to execute their financial services. They expect more personalized services, like what they do see on other platforms or other industries. And the way to deliver experience economy to those customers, basically we need to understand the customer behavior and provide personalized services and recommendations to them. As we all know, people leave the brands because of bad experience, and this is something also affecting the financial industry. So that's the first one. The second one is the economic headwind, meaning the financial, the pressure that are around the banks today to reduce their cost. Running banks today, as we all know, is not cheap. The interest rates are really low, and banks are looking to ways to reduce their cost. And the best way to do that is through automation, by the use of the data, automating the front office, the back office, empowering the employees to take decision in real time based on real-time data that they have in front of them. That would make providing the services, customer onboarding really smooth and easy with the minimum risk. The next thing is regulations and security. As you know, this is something not new. For the banking industry, it's very regulated industry. There are regulations, but the regulations are becoming more complex and difficult to adapt to. They are very dynamic. They keep changing day after day. And for the banks to provide consistent and real-time reporting to the regulators, it's becoming really, a costly process, I would say. And then security. Security is basically, especially cyber security. Banks spend lots of money in maintaining the cyber security and being able, and the more they go, as you said, banks are going to provide lots of digital services. And with digital services, you need to, the security breaches could be higher. And, to maintain the customer trust and depending on the digital services provided by the banks, they have to be secured for sure. The last one I want to shed some light on it is the tech acceleration. Now, probably this is the most powerful force that reshaping the banking industry. You've talked about fintech and open banking standards, for example, that is coming to the banking industry. Tech acceleration around the new innovations like artificial intelligence, cloud, and we'll hear about that more later on during Regis, session. These technologies are really reshaping the industry, and we all know that the FSI industry is a big adopter for technology for so long, and they are looking at these, new technologies to do lots of automations, to better use the data they have. That would make them in a prime position to personalize lots of the services that they offer to their customers. Back to you, Tom.
Great, thanks, Mohamed. Imran, coming back to you and kind of building on what Mohamed is saying, he's talking about businesses and governments are digitizing. The new normal means remote working and distance learning, the acceleration of the digitization of our daily lives. We can now go to the doctor or do all of our shopping online. When it comes to security, obviously there's lots of concerns. Do you think that the traditional mindset around cybersecurity is good enough for the new normal?
Well, the short answer, legacy, good enough security is no longer enough. Trust is absolutely crucial during this extraordinary period of business calibration. But trust in itself may not be enough at the moment. There needs to be more certainty. There needs to be more technical solution. There needs to be the right mindset to understand that security is paramount importance and it's everyone's responsibility now. Every organization has its own unique circumstances, and while instincts tend to veer towards protection during the periods of uncertainty, smart leaders will place equal emphasis on protection and growth along with security. They will not just go back to their bunkers because if they cannot provide the right set of cybersecurity solutions. And as we are becoming more reliant on remote working, the number of cyber attacks will increase further. This is a known fact, out of which financial services is the most targeted industry. At the same time, reliance on technology also raises challenges. Therefore, I think the organizations must forge ahead and look forward to securing the new work from anywhere ecosystem, because this is going to stay. Things probably will not go back to 100% physical. So we have to embrace this now. Back in March and April, organizations worldwide were in a mad scramble to become functional remote workforces. Now, the organizations, they must remove the stopgap bandages and implement long-term strategies and solutions that can sustain the work from anywhere paradigm. Think of moving towards cloud. Public cloud providers invest heavily in security innovation. So rather than reskilling or hiring security experts yourself, it will be very difficult for the SMEs especially and the startups. My advice is that they should think of moving to cloud. Cloud architecture is homogeneous. And in general, the investment cost is a lot less than having all these solutions on premise. For us to succeed in 2021 and beyond, cybersecurity awareness must transcend to the public and touch upon every level: personal, family, national, and global. There are incredible cybersecurity awareness tools and programs out there, but unless it is presented in a way that makes people think it is for their own benefit, it won't resonate. So more security, but keeping the innovation open, because with innovation, with new business model, it is very, very important for us to sustain the growth of the economy. Thank you, Tom. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you, Imran, for that insight. I think we only have time for one more question, but before I ask that, if there are any questions from the audience, there is an opportunity to post those and we can pose them to the panel. But for the final question, and apologies to the panel for not getting to all the questions that we had discussed, I'd like to go back to Linoy and just kind of, we talked a lot about the dynamics that brought us to where we are today, talking about the new normal, work from home, moving to the cloud, security, and all these things. What are the next innovations that you see? What's coming next that's going to continue to drive this digital era in the Middle East?
I think blockchain and cloud are going to be the next big drivers that we see in the Middle East. I think that peer-to-peer, instead of having MQ and stopping the ST, we're going to have straight through processing is going to be absolutely key. And I think it's going to change the underlying ethos of banking as well. So thanks, Tom. My baby's crying now, so I'll hand over to someone else.
This is for sure the new normal of having kids in the office these days. Great. Are there any questions in the? Oh, hang on. We have a question. Okay, so I'll pose this to the panel. I'm not sure. It's a little bit in a different industry, but we have Mr. Mohamed asking, what are the opportunities and difficulties in healthcare industries during this pandemic? I don't know if anyone has an opinion or perspective on that.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, what are the opportunities and difficulties in the healthcare industries during this pandemic?
Well, I can take part of that answer. The difficulties are much more and beyond the limits of every other industries, because it is regulation from one side and it's the physical factor. People are dying every day and people are getting impacted by this pandemic every day. So they are the highly impacted part, and they need to move fast and faster than others in adopting their processes, their way of handling remote consultations, which they did already. Now, most of the consultations are getting remotely, and the medicines, prescriptions are getting prescribed and sent to homes directly. So the health industry get into the speed by force, not by choice. Thank you.
Yeah, great. A couple more questions are coming in, and then we are running short on time, but one that actually I would like to hear your perspectives on, those that have good experience in Bahrain. Are there any role model companies that have really done a great job of digital transformation that you can point out that others could look to to see how the experience went?
Well, can you repeat the first part, please?
Yeah, the question is there a company or a set of companies in Bahrain that one can look at as a role model in terms of having a successful digital transformation journey?
Well, I can say the food industry is the fastest and the quickest one to adopt. That was the first one. The second thing, I would praise some of the governmental services, which in few months, they were able to provide their services remotely with limitations, but they were faster even than the commercial sector, who should be faster than the government. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. They've done a great job. If anyone else wants to address that. And then the final question, just quickly, is from Ashish asking, how has cryptocurrency taken over in today's digital age? Anyone have experience on crypto?
Anyone to answer?
Well, I am a crypto investor, and honestly speaking, I'm impressed by the progress. Like this was unacceptable, but anyway, it happened in Bahrain first. We have a digital crypto exchange in Bahrain, the first one, and it has a good ranking. We have one in the UAE. I think crypto is gonna stay, but there are a lot of useless coins out there. But crypto is not just, remember one thing, crypto is not just the digital money. It is a lot more, and it is not just blockchain. So in crypto, we will see that more businesses will once the regulation from the government is in place. Right now, the government is working on this, and hopefully we will soon see enough regulations in this sector. So we will see businesses accepting digital currency, and we will see more startups launching their ICOs using crypto. So yes, there is a future. Like it's another thing that has proven its mettle. So it's undeniable. It's going to stay. That's my take on it.
I think that's all the time we have. Unfortunately, I'm sure we could have talked much longer on a number of these topics, but I think we covered a lot. Regardless, we talked about digital banking, traditional banking, the impacts of cloud, automation, blockchain, crypto, work from anywhere. And so I want to thank all of the panelists, Linoy, Jawad, Imran, and Mohamed. Thank you so much for doing this and letting me be a part of it. And thank you to the team as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of the panelists.